A very good evening to all our dear viewers, and welcome to the live talk show conducted by Global Education and Training Institute under the aegis of Disruptive Education Movement. Today, in the series of live talk show, we have with us Miss V. Manjula, and she's going to give us a brief talk on a very important and vital issue, that is neurosciences and human cognition in classroom, and how to shape up the minds of the next generation of students and inspire leaders of today through disruptive education movement. A brief introduction to Ma'am Manjula. She is the founder of People Tree Education. She is the president of the board and founder trustee Institute of Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. If we talk about her achievements, she is the first to introduce neural education in India, served more than 1 lakh students, trained more than 30,000 teachers, worked across the subcontinent region, and has also worked across Pan Africa developing teachers, training nursing college students at NIMHANS. She is also the South Indian Women Achievers Awardee in the area of education. She has the certification of Basic and Advanced in Neurosciences of Learning from Neural Education and Seattle Pacific University, USA. She has also been certified with psychology course from Yale University. She is a postgraduate in science, arts, and education from Mysore and Bangalore universities. Today, we have with us Ms. V. Manjula, who is also the recipient of South Indian Women Achievers Award 2019 and the Real Superwoman 2020 awardee by Forever Start India Awards. Welcome, ma'am, to this live talk show conducted by Global Education and Training Institute. And over to you for the further briefing on the issue that you have brought up today.
Thank you so much for the wonderful and generous introduction. And we are here to introduce neuroscience and human cognition in classroom. And why do you think neuroscience is very important, right? And when we discuss about neuroscience, people tell that, "Oh, I'm not a biology teacher, and this is not applicable to me." But is it right? We all know that there is one important organ in our body which is helping us in learning process, right? That is the brain. It's a wonderful, marvelous organ which is stuck between our ears, and it can be compared to the interstellar or the cosmos or the number of galaxies and the stars. And this potential is, I think, nobody has what to tell has really discovered the potential of human brain. Here I would like to show you the model of human brain. Here you could see, right? So this is where all our thinking, then decision making, speech, language, and concentration, imagination, and all the process which happens in this small organ, which we can call it as a just 1.5 kilograms of your whole body, or we can just tell it as just 2% of the total body weight what we have. And this human brain is very soft, very agile, very malleable, and hence it is also like dipped in the cerebrospinal fluid, which acts as a shock absorber, and it's protected by a hard bones called skull. Though it is like it is just there inside with more protected and with the, but still it can be susceptible to lots of diseases as well. So now let's learn about human brain and how this human brain helps us in teaching and learning process, and why exactly teachers should know about this human brain. And I'll not make these things very complex and tell you lots of jargons about cerebellum or brainstem or cerebral cortex or limbic system, amygdala hijack, and so on. I'll make it very simple. So let me show you a fruit. It's one of my favorite fruit. This is called as an orange. And now just to make it more simpler, I'll just peel this fruit. You could see here I'm just, it's smelling so nice. So here, 1 minute, I'm just opening it. Here you could see the two hemispheres. I'm just peeling it out further, and here we can consider this to be the cerebral cortex. Okay, and this is left hemisphere, and this can be called as right hemisphere. And here you could see lots of strands, right? These strands we can call it as corpus callosum, right? Okay. So now you'll all be thinking, why am I showing this parts of brain, and is it really necessary to understand about brain? Yes, of course. When we talk about, and right from the evolution, like millions of years ago, the one thing that man has evolved, that is through the brain. Right from the beginning, and the brain has evolved, is like you can call this as a brainstem, and we can call it as a primitive brain. Then followed by you have cerebellum, and in between you have the midbrain, and you top you have the recently evolved brain, we call it as cerebrum or cortex. In most of the workshop I call it as thinking cap. Okay, and now again the question, every now and then I'm just repetitively asking you the question, why as a teacher should know about the brain? We all know that since 150 years, since 150 years, our country was a colony of British, right? And majority in most of the world, most of the countries were also the part of British. British ruled India almost for 150 years, and there was advent of East India Company, and they wanted laborers, they wanted clerks, they wanted teachers, and they wanted lots of other people who could assist in their work. So what they did is they started introducing their education system in India. And as we all know that British just wanted people to work mechanically. They didn't wanted people to think. So hence they started implementing the programs or the education which is more of behavioristic approach. They only introduced, like for example, right from the behaviorism like Thorndike theories, or it might be Pavlov's theories, classical or neoclassical theories, and so on. Everything they believe that any changes in behavior we consider to be a learning. And of course, I'm not denying the fact that behavior is important, and behavior is absolutely a form of communication. But they told that learning happens only when there is a change in behavior. But after the like lots of research took place, and one of the greatest again psychologist called Jean Piaget, he came up with the cognitivism. He is the one person who insisted that learning is not just the change in behavior, but there is one important organ, that is the brain, which is very important, which is involved in the learning process, right? So hence he told that he explained the how exactly the brain changes, how during the infant, to the birth to the infant, then the early childhood and the adolescence and the adulthood. So there was every step he emphasized on the learning aspect, and he also believed the learning happens when there is an equilibration. But what we'll tell that, yes, the learning happens, it's not just equilibration, but when the teacher creates disequilibrium in the classroom. Let me give you a small example with this perspective. What is disequilibrium? Any changes or when anything which is not equal, where anything which is disruptive in nature is that is disequilibrium. So, for example, let me illustrate. Here is a EVS teacher, Miss Rita is going to the classroom. Miss Rita is going to her classroom and she's teaching about the heavenly bodies, about the heavenly bodies to the students. So when she's introducing the concept of heavenly bodies, she comes up with the concept of the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the comets, asteroids, etc. But here she's telling that during the daytime we can see the sun, the star which is very near to the earth, and during nighttime we can see lots of what do you say twinkling bodies. We call it as stars and moons and etc. And it's fine. This is equilibration. Okay, she has shared some information in the classroom, and fine, the students are also taking it. But the question is, when does the learning happens? So here she creates another situation that she brings one more image in the classroom where a child sees the sun and the moon together. Then the child starts thinking, how is this possible? We see moon only in the night sky and we see the sun in the day sky. But now it is day and now I can see here moon and I can see the sun. How is this possible? This child starts thinking, and here the teacher becomes successful in creating the disequilibrium in the classroom. And hence, the child starts thinking and he starts lots of questioning, and he becomes very inquisitive in nature, and he asks lots of questions to his peers, his friends, his parents, his siblings, and so on. And that's the where you can see a teacher to be successful in creating a neural classroom. Okay, now the next question you need to ask me, what do you mean by neural classroom? See, like what out of my experience since last 10 years, we were like, it's like excavating, or we were trying to digging lots of knowledge in terms of understanding about the brain and about the neural circuitries and about the various important other parts of the brain, how exactly these are supporting in our teaching and learning process. And for that, like in the due course of our experience, we also introduced the concept of mind mapping. And mind mapping is a very powerful tool and it's very near to the metacognition or the thinking. So when I'm using the word metacognition, which refers to thinking how to think, and we use it, it was a powerful tool and it was a very creative tool. We emphasized on the structure before function, and also emphasized on the how the colors, images, infographics plays, and keywords, the powerful keywords plays an important role in the teaching and learning process. So here, end of the day, it is not about the knowledge, it is not about the information what we can read it through our and information is it's available everywhere, as we all know. You open newspaper, you open internet, you can google out, you can go to wikipedia, and you we have lots of what do you call it as open resources, right? It's all available. So at this age, at this juncture, for the 21st century learners, information is not important, rather how to manage this information and how can I lead my life successfully, that's more important. So now the question comes, how to manage the information. So how to manage the information, as we all know, here comes a very important point under the neural perspective. It is what do you call it as George Miller. He came up with a beautiful law, we call it as a Miller's law. He came up with a magical number called as 7 plus or minus 2. So he like during those time when there was we were not using that much of technology, we could memorize loads and loads of numbers or informations and so on. So maybe like even if you check with your parents or your grandparents, you could tell their phone numbers very easily, which was there in your memory. But nowadays, even if you ask, like if you want to dial your son's number, you may find it difficult to recollect your own son's numbers or a spouse numbers. So we are like, what I believe is this mobile phones has become an extension of our brain. We totally depend on this mobile phones. So hence now, after this advent of this technology, this 7 plus or minus 2 has come down to 4 plus or minus 2. So hence the Miller's law, like he mainly focuses on the working memory, and also he spoke lots of important concepts like phonological loops and visual spatial sketchpad and so on. And he totally connect this information about the memories and the working memory or executive function memory with perspective of neural functions. So like again, this is very important. Next comes the next important question is Hebbian rule of learning. Hebbian, Donald Hebb, he believed that the neurons that fire together, it wires together. So what do you mean by the neurons which fire together that wire together? So again, he came up with the three postulates. Basically, he emphasized on the cell assembly, right? Okay, so now the next comes like he told that he also emphasized the fact that he spoke about long-term potentiation. So in our brain we are the owners of 100 billion neurons, and he told that these neurons communicate with each other, and then they form a neural pathways, and when these neural pathways are strong enough, then you can recollect the memories or informations or experiences. So he told that long-term potentiation in the sense that when there is a cell A and this is cell B, and cell A comes up with lots of action potentiation, and he wants to talk with the cell B, and cell B decides whether really I need to talk with this cell A or not. If the action potentiation is really strong, then the cell B decides that okay, let me talk to cell A, and this is how they releases lots of chemical juices. Then they exchange the information from cell A to cell B. This is how the interaction happens with the cell A and cell B, or one neuron to another neuron. So this is called as long-term potentiation. When the cell A starts interacting with cell B and releases lots and lots of chemical juices, then we call it as long-term potentiation. That means we are strengthening the synaptic connections. Once you strengthen the synaptic connections, definitely you can put the information to the long-term memory. So I just told about why we need to understand about the human brain, and then I spoke about the neural circuitry, then Miller's law and long-term potentiation in terms of Hebbian rule. Now let's understand about, as a teachers, why she needs to create. Is it that like my job is okay, he's we as a teachers, you all might have experienced that I have a bunch of average students and other bunch of below average students, and the rest you have the above average students. As a teachers, we start stratifying the students with the various baskets in terms of their scores. But that really is it really good? But when you look at the students performances under the neural lenses, we need to understand that we need not put any students under the various buckets. So here we have a concept called neural plasticity. So here when I tell about the neuroplasticity, we tell that the brain is very malleable in nature and it can be changed. So malleable, when I'm telling it as a malleable, there are two types of changes which we can see in the brain. One is one is structural changes, and other one is functional changes. Like let me show you an example of what do you mean by malleable. Here I have bought some play dough or a clay which is safe for the students. We can use it. So see, however, I just squeeze in, you could see the changes, how whatever the changes I, wherever the pressure I give, you can see the changes, right? Similarly, the students' brain are also malleable in terms of having the functional changes. So here there are lots of couple of what do I tell that case studies which gives more importance of which highlights the importance of neuroplasticity. So here there was a woman called woman from China. She was slightly experiencing some vertigo and imbalances and nausea, and she went to a doctor. And doctor eventually he started investigation, and then he suggested that women to go for the PET scan. And to be shocked, she was born without cerebellum. So here when we talk about without cerebellum, as we all know that this part, the cerebellum is very important. What is the main function of cerebellum is it helps you in balancing, and which helps you, it's a home of 50% of neurons and coordinations and even some pieces of emotions and so on. So just imagine a person born without cerebellum, but still he can walk, she can walk, she can talk, she was married, and she also had some few two children. That's amazing. So here with this case study, we understand that brain, the main function of brain is it is not just help you survive, but also help you thrive in your own, in your world. So hence with this, like, and there are many other case studies like Brook case study. He in fact he was like the entire hemisphere, this left hemisphere was removed because he was experiencing some epilepsies and seizures. After the, like, it was shocking for all the doctors and neuroscientists after the operation, but still he could speak, sorry, he could speak, and also he could write poetries, and he could use the best of best vocabularies. But to our understanding, our Broca's and Wernicke's areas is a part of left hemisphere. But when the entire left hemisphere is removed, we should understand that this Brook should not be talking, or he cannot understand the pitch, he cannot understand the intonation, but still now he is in a position to understand the pitch, vocabulary, is making sense out of the words, and also he writes poetries. That is the power of human brain. And hence, as a teachers, please, dear teachers, never ever try to put students in various baskets. It's all about, there might be some students like suffering from dyslexia or ADHD, but in spite of that, we all have, the government also gives emphasis on the inclusive education. Let embrace the inclusive education and give the right interaction and right intervention to the students, and I'm sure you are helping to unleash the child's potential to the fullest, right? And the next important one is why the teacher should know about human brain is, there is one important part in the human brain, and it is very exciting to me, and which helps you to regulate your emotions. As right from the beginning, I'm trying to tell that the brain is one thing which helps you in what you mean in learning. And here is an organ which is there in a limbic part of our brain, which is there in the either part of our hemispheres, and that brain, that particular organ has the power to stop you from learning. That is none other than an element sized organ, which we call it as amygdala. Amygdala is a small tiny element sized organ which is there in our left hemisphere and right hemisphere, or left limbic system and the right limbic system. It has got the power to stop you from learning. Now the job of the teacher comes to the picture. Now, as we all know that there are 40 students in the classroom and there is a one beautiful teacher, like if the teacher fails to understand if any of our students are really amygdala hijacked. What do you mean by amygdala hijack? That means like the child is, it might be in a fight to a, like there are three situations basically. One is fight, one is flight, and other one is freeze. So these are the three situations the child might be. Who knows? The child might have seen a fight in their home. The child might have seen a accident in the on the road. The child might have fought with his friend. Anything might have happened to the child and his amygdala is hijacked. In that situation, child in whatever crores of rupees if you give also, the child tells, no, I don't want to learn because my amygdala is hijacked. That is from the child perspective. Now let's assume from the teacher's perspective, at the end of the day, teacher is also a human being, right? If her amygdala is hijacked, just imagine your students and teachers, it's like a kind of nuclear chemical reaction happening in the classroom. How dangerous it is, right? So, as a teacher, there are many techniques to control our amygdala hijack, and we can control our emotions. There are some techniques, like, for example, take a deep breath, just feel relaxed, right? Do lots of meditation. And beautiful thing is do lots of physical exercises. When you start during amygdala hijack, what happens? There are lots of cortisol kind of hormones are overpowering your emotions. And in case if you're calming yourself, if you're doing meditation, if you're taking a doing some breathing exercises, and if you'd have done lots of physical activities, then I'm sure that the teacher would be filled with lots of positive neurotransmitters like serotonin, oxytocin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, etc. Right? What a wonderful thing. So the teacher, it's in the hands of a teacher that understand about the brain, create lots of positive neurotransmitters in the classroom by bringing in lots of exercises and net breaks and some songs, music, drama, build that trust among the students. Once the teacher builds a trust and she's understanding the students, then there is no room for, of course, cortisol is important, stress is important in the classroom, but even more than that, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, these kinds of neurotransmitters helps the learner to do much much more in their life. So that's the power of amygdala hijack. Now, next important thing is understanding about the power of the lifestyle. Do you think the lifestyle makes an impact in teaching and learning process? Yes, definitely. So here, when I'm telling about lifestyle, I'm hinting at three major areas. One is diet, other one is exercise, and last one is sleep. So, diet. What sort of food you eat? And here I'm not preaching or telling that you need to have vegetarian or non-vegetarian. No. Have balanced diet. Have good breakfast, lunch, dinner. Eat only when you're hungry and maintain the discipline aspect, like avoid overeating, avoid lots of junk food, avoid. I'm not telling don't stop, just avoid. Wherever, like I know as a human beings, we need to enjoy partying, all those things is fine. But some discipline in our dietaries definitely makes an impact in a learning process. Second one is exercise. The morning exercise, the walking, cycling, or swimming, kayaking, anything which helps you to develop lots of BDNF. BDNF stands for brain derived neurotrophic factors. So this is very important, which acts like a fertilizers to your brain. And this BDNF also helps you for the neurogenesis, which predominantly happens in hippocampus region. Hippocampus also is one of the important part of limbic organ, which helps you to remember the things, and it also helps you for the like important of long term memories and so on. And in our brain, as we all know that we have more than 100 billion neurons, so it's like we are almost one owner of 100 billion neurons. There are owners. So here we have two possible things. One is neurons degeneration, that's a age-related problems. One is a very important aspect. We can also regenerate the neurons. So, if at all, if you want for the regeneration of neurons, do ample exercises. When you have ample neurons and ample active neurons, which will definitely help you in teaching and learning process. So, especially as a teacher, I request you to always use. A teacher should stand in the classroom and do lots of some kind of physical activities. Like for example, like crossing, we call it as crossing the midline. We all know that our brain is connected, right? Our brain is connected here. Okay, here you could see this is corpus callosum, which is a bundle of nerves which always helps you in interacting with the left brain and right brain. So when you plan some activities in the classroom, right? When you plan some activities, it helps you in for example, which helps you in crossing the midline. When I'm telling crossing the midline, there should be enough blood flow happening in your brain. So if a teacher is sitting, like nowadays also, now due to this pandemic, we sit long hours sitting in front of the system, and what happens? Our blood starts settling in our thighs and legs. So once in a while, when you stand up and do some physical activities, that again helps your blood to flow into your brain, and which again all your left and right brain starts interacting, and again every part of the brain starts becomes active, and again it helps you for the better learning, right? So now, like since then, like I'm just trying to give a sneak peek about why understanding about the brain science helps for the teacher. Now, last but not the least, I would like to touch upon two important aspects. Like one is like there are students, there are different types of students, right? I'm not here categorizing the students in terms of their scores, but here by their nature, there are some orchid students, there are some dandelion students. So here orchid students are basically they are very sensitive by nature, and there are dandelion students, they are very resilient and they can just overcome any kind of stress if they are facing. So again, a teacher should try to be in a position that to recognize an orchid kid and also recognize the dandelion kid, and she can always modify her lessons and use the right pedagogy in enhancing and creating the greenhouse for the orchid children as well as the dandelion children, and give the right intervention according to their needs. It is not all about the teacher, how she should teach, but it's all about students, how they want to learn. So make the teaching and learning process most enjoyable, and students should enjoy it. I always tell my teachers and the trainees and participants, make sure that students every morning, students should run to come to school, and they should always drag themselves to go to their house. That kind of impact they as a teachers we need to create for the students. But otherwise in reality what we see, oh my gosh, I don't want to wake up so early, they drag themselves. Oh, it's already Monday morning, I don't want to go to school, right? Most of the students, I hear a lot from the students that they drag themselves to the school because the school has become boring, boring. So, dear teachers, if at all, if you want, if you want to be a successful in this profession, take up 100% responsibility. Again, I'm telling, it is not about yours or your career. Definitely your career matters, but it's all about students, and you have dedicated yourself for the students, right? Now it's time for slightly some exploration and some hands-on. Don't worry that I'm not just showing some model or some brain with the help of an orange. Now I will take this opportunity to show you the real brain. Now it's time to go to our IBBRF laboratory. Okay, 1 minute. I'm just walking you to my laboratory. Yeah, 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. I need to wear my lab uniform. The gloves because it's very important for me. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. So here, let me take a sample. Okay. Now I'm trying. Okay. So here. Okay. So here you could see the real live brain. First, let me hold it from my hand. So here, okay. So here you could see this is a real brain of a sheep, right? And you could see here lots of, again, the blood cell is just an hour before we just excavated from the sheep brain. And why, as we all know that it's very difficult to get the real human brain, right? So I just chosen the sheep brain because from the anatomical perspective, it looks similar to the human brain. Here you could see left brain, left brain, right brain, and in between you could see there is a bifurcation of left and right hemisphere, and here is a cerebellum, and here bottom is the brain stem. Okay, now I'll just show you the inferior part of the brain, right? So here you could see this is brainstem, pons, brainstem, and here, okay, this is a limbic part of the brain. Now let me just help you in. Okay, let me cut into two hemisphere. Okay, okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so here you could see, this is corpus callosum, which interacts between the left and right hemisphere. And the gap, what you see, there is some cavity, right? This we call it as ventricles. In human brain, we have four ventricles, ventricle 1, 2, and 3, 4. And this ventricle is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. And here you could see this is the limbic part of the brain. And I'm not sure, like it's very difficult to find the thalamus and amygdala and all. That's fine. And now let me show the other brain. This this is another other brain. This layer This layer, we call it as pia mater, which is closer to the brain. And above the pia mater, you have arachnoid, subarachnoid space, subarachnoid space. Then you have dura mater. Okay. So this in human brain, this pia mater is like it's very strong. See now also, like if I'm trying to stretch it, it doesn't tear. It's very strong. It's a like it is like, for example, you have a mobile phone, right? You put the mobile skin for the protective layer. It's a similarly to our brain also. It acts like a protective layer. Okay, this is the inferior part of the brain. Hope it's visible to you all. All right. Thank you so much. Now let's resume to our session. Okay. Okay. So here I request all the teachers to bring lots of real objects in the classroom, and also like try to give lots of real experiences to the students. So hence what happened, you're bringing in creating lots of dopamine. Like dopamine always helps you in bringing the students always, when there is high dopamine in the students' mind, students are always in anticipation mode. They want to know more and more, right? So hence, like if the teacher brings lots of real objects and real experiences in the classroom, I'm sure students will definitely enjoy. And its learning is not just gaining the knowledge or gathering the knowledge or information. It's all about experiences. And maybe in our school days also, like it's not about like what you learn, what is Archimedes principle, or what or define democracy. It is not about the question and answer. It's about what we recollect when you are there, like when you meet in your alumni meetings and all. What we recollect, hey, you know that during that running race, my teacher helped was cheering me so much. During my annual day, my teacher helped me so much. And we always cherish various moments with the teachers and students, and it's all about the bonding and experience. So hence neural education, it's all about creating autonomy, mastery, and purpose. That's fantastic, right? So always try to create greenhouses in the classroom, and use lots of neural techniques. And there are many programs, and apart from that, there are various other courses as well to understand about the basics and advances about the neural education. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. If you have any questions, I'm open to it.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
it was
I'm
a
open to
wonderful
questions.
display through the real brain
Ma'am, I'll
that
just
you.
shift to my laptop 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Screen? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Now we can see you.
Yeah,
And that was a
you
wonderful
can close the
display of
IPPRS class.
neurosciences through the brain that you brought in all those important and vital issues, that how far the neurons can be developed in retaining different memories, and how to put them into use at a larger scale. Even a mother, as you told, the lady who didn't have the cerebellum, and how she could manage to lead her life successfully. That was a really good example in front of us. So thank you so much for being with us on this wonderful talk show. And thank you, dear
If you have
viewers,
any
for being
questions,
with
let
us
me know,
on
ma'am.
this talk show conducted by Global Education and Training Institute. See you in yet another talk in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.